you grow up with a NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. ThisWeekInGeek. ThisWeekInGeek.
Hello, hello, hello. It's time again for another review roundup episode. I just wanted to preface this by saying we're going to have them all sort of flow together, with a little bit of musical interlude in between. Because I noticed that for whatever reason, our stingers and interstitial, little clips that we've created, we've been using them for years now. And with our shows, they get re-syndicated automatically onto YouTube, even though we're, an audio podcast. Just, it's part of the whole package we have where it just auto-sends it to every single platform available. We're getting dinged back saying that it's blocked in a bunch of countries because some little tiny audio clip within one of our little stingers, and I have to be able to pinpoint down which one it is. One of them is blocking it in like most of the world because some claim whatever, blah blah blah, which again doesn't matter. We don't monetize our videos or anything on YouTube. It's just I don't like the idea that we're getting dinged like that. So I'm gonna maybe check it out, and maybe I'll just use one of them this week, and then we'll see if that is the one that's the cause, or if then we'll swap it out for another one next time. We'll see how it goes. But that just seems kind of odd. As far as what we have in store for you here, the roundup here, we have the Anker Nano mini charger, my first thoughts, impressions on Biomutant. We also have a release from Wellgo USA called Morgue. It's a foreign horror film. A roundup of the Mill Creek releases, Ultraman Leo, Scars of War, anti-Vietnam box set, and John Wayne's Hellfighters. We also have a Wonder Boy, Asha in Monster World. And so I guess without further ado, we may as well get right into the review so you can hear everything that's going on.
Basically, using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Just want to talk quickly about the new Anker Nano. I received this a little while ago, and I wanted to, put it through its paces as far as wall chargers go, because you think, buy a wall charger, they're all the same. That's not the case. This little guy is really the smallest wall charger I've ever used. The fact that it's a quick charger, at first you're like, it's a little concerning because you're going, wait, that's going to create a lot of heat. But this is one of those brand new... I forget there's a type of component that they use inside of these guys that I remember reading a bit about it, and it's drawn a blank in my brain right now. But some of the components that are used in these newer, these new designed wall chargers, they don't create quite as much heat, and they're able to withstand a fair amount more. So they're actually able to make these things smaller. Because remember, quick charging ports and wall plugs, wall warts or whatever they call them, they used to be like 2 or 3 times this size. So the Nano truly is Nano. It's smaller than one of those ones that comes with an old iPod, the little tiny square cube ones. It's slightly smaller than one of those, and it does full quick charge, with up to 20 watts of max output, which is like double or, at least double what a lot of those ones originally did. So, the fact that it's quick charge in there, it's well put together. I was able to charge my iPad. I was able to charge, an iPad while it's on and running and like playing videos and everything, and it didn't charge slowly, it charged at regular rate. I then, used my Android phone with it, which did a full quick charge on it. I was even able to plug in my Nintendo Switch. I wasn't able to use it as, a replacement for like the dock charger or something, but like plugged in the TV. But playing in portable mode, I was able to quick charge that sucker while playing games with full brightness, and it didn't lose its charge or hover, and it worked just fine, and it didn't get too hot to the touch or anything. Well put together. If you're looking for something that's really portable too, that you can take anywhere, you're going to your mom's, your dad's, your kids, so you want something to have, just in your backpack, or even you could fit it. It's basically the size of your thumb. It's maybe like two thumbs stacked on top of each other. It's good to have one of these guys in your drawer or on your desk as an extra, because I was really surprised, for the size, that it was able to do quick charging that fast. Because most 5-watt chargers or small portable ones, they're not going to be something that you want to necessarily carry around with you because they're just sort of clunky and large. This thing is so small, you can keep, a couple of them as your backups, where you can take anywhere you want. Well worth picking up as a backup, or even as a replacement for your regular charger. I'm just going to take a minute here and give my first impressions / early review of Biomutant. Our friends over at THQ Nordic sent a review copy a couple days before release, so I've had enough time now to get a decent chunk of the way into the game, but not fully completed, just enough to get the gameplay loop and the general aesthetic and feel of the game down, and I can give my initial thoughts. I'll say this: I've seen some of the other reactions out there, and it's one of these games that's getting wildly mixed reviews and takes from all over the board. It is going to be a game that is not going to get universal praise or universal derision. It's going to be something that is more of a personal preference. Will skew heavily where this lies, in the qualitative realm for you. To me, we don't give, exact numbers, out of a 10 or anything. We just usually talk about whether we like a game or we don't, or what, we recommend and what we don't recommend. And I'm going to recommend this right off the bat for anybody that, has already seen a lot of the footage out there and think, okay, this is up their alley. Because it is, a pretty good, considering it's a small team of like less than 50. I think it was like 20 some odd people that were the main team behind developing this. The controls are a lot tighter than the initial previews had led me to believe. I actually went into this game very skeptical because I remember seeing the initial teaser for it years ago, thinking that looked cool, and then we heard and saw everything that came out of E3 and how the game looked really rough. And it didn't look like it was ever going to get any better than that. Well, flash forward a couple years now, and it's out. And it turns out it's actually a lot better than the initial trailers had shown. I'll say this. The absolute best part of the game is the character creation. The way you select your character and then you use your left analog stick in a radial fashion to select the size and shape and proportions of your character, which affect your RPG stats, and the degree of accuracy of which you can do that with dramatically improves and makes the creation of your character so fun. And you use the same analog stick to select your traits, as well as the color and fur patterns of your character. The character creator is one of the most robust I've ever seen, and that alone makes it worth trying for anybody that's a action RPG fan that really wants to, create something and doesn't want to sit there for, hours going through individual numbers and dials. It really gives you the freedom to just very quickly get a very unique character. The audio is pretty good. The music is decent, but it's not as big budget or immersive as I would have hoped for, but obviously this is a smaller project, so curb your expectations there. Graphically, it's a bit of a mixed bag. It is very beautiful, and the HDR works great. I'm playing it on a PlayStation 5 in PS4 backwards compatible, meaning it's locked to 1080p because that's just the limitation of the engine, I guess, currently, until they maybe make a next gen update patch, or if they make a bespoke separate version you can purchase. But that being said, it does lock to 60 FPS at 1080p, obviously on PS5, because it's not pushing it too hard. There are aspects of this that could use maybe a little finer detail as far as some of the textures, but your character looks great and the enemies look great. Controls are very tight and concise. It does take a little bit of getting used to some of the dodging mechanics and jumping around, but the loop is pretty good. It's not overly punishing, but you can die pretty quickly if you don't pay attention. The basic loop of the game is you are slowly at the beginning introduced into your character's backstory, which you can make choices of while it's explaining to you what's happened in your past. And depending on the choices you make affects your alignment, and it affects some of the toxicity things that you're immune to or attuned to. It affects some of the gear you have and the crafting, and it's kind of a neat way, narrative-wise, to get you involved with your character's backstory. And after you do that, you're then given the choices to side with certain factions, and those factions will affect your alignment. And then you're told the loop, which is do missions for people in your area, take over territory, kill a bad guy that's controlling one of the roots of the world tree. And then after you kill each one of them, the idea is to slowly take back the quadrants of the land, and then go back to the world, the life-giving tree, the center of the game, and you'll have obviously a big boss fight. So that in itself is classic old school game design, and it works well. I've seen reviews, people talking about how things are boring. It's not going to be the most scripted, high-end game out there. It's also, people forgetting, not a full retail priced game. In Canada, at least, a regular retail game had traditionally been $79 for the last 10, 15 years, and now it's $89. So previous gen is still $79. This is priced at $59. So this is, not a budget title, but it's not a AAA title. If you take that into account, I believe it's worth the money. And if you're on the fence, maybe check it out on YouTube, see what you think. But I'm having a pretty good time playing this. It's not something I can play for 10, 15 hours a day, blasting through. It's not that addictive, but it does have its moments where I'm like, I'm going to hop in and play some more, 2-3 hour bursts, and I'm having a pretty good time. Just a quickie review here, and our friends at Wellgo USA sent Morgue, which is a brand new horror film. It is a foreign film, so it's in Spanish with English subtitles, but it's only 81 minutes long. And it's not, being a horror film, you don't need necessarily to have a lot of dialogue, so it's not like, not being in English is going to be a major factor. Visually, it's shot pretty well considering it's a lower budget film. It does have a decent look. It's a little washed out, here and there, but that might just be a aesthetic choice they made. Audio wise, it's serviceable, but obviously, I'm not gonna. It's nothing to write home about audio because, low budget films. I will say that it doesn't have that crappy low budget American feel where the audio is so bad that it ends up bringing the whole video down. It does seem to suit it quite well. But the basic plot is the main character is in a car accident and hurts somebody and doesn't, in a car crash, and doesn't report it or say anything, goes to work and at a morgue, and then finds that the body brought in is the person he killed, and then he's haunted. That's the basic premise. It's well put together. It's pretty derivative as far as plot lines go. It doesn't offer anything super spectacularly new, but what it does do pretty well, and it takes a bit to get going, but as we enter its, second and third act, There are enough scares in there that it's a competently made film and probably worth watching. For most people, it's going to be a rental. If you're a big horror fan, or if you just like foreign horror films, you might want to consider getting it. There's not really any special features. It's pretty bare bones release, but it does have a nice slip cover, and it's priced, depending on where you go, very reasonably. It's worth checking out for the horror fans out there. I know a few super fans, and I know Birdman himself is one, so I'll be making sure that he gets a hold of a copy of this for him to check out. And it's just, a basic plot done pretty well. It's time for another one of our Mill Creek roundups on what they've released and we've received in the last month or so. I wanted to make sure I got all these talked about and once, so I spent a very warm day, huddled in air conditioning, with the Bluray player on so that I could check out everything. We have a 4-pack Scars of War, which is a Vietnam package. It's 2 discs with 4 movies, so they put it on each on its own layer per disc. Casualties of War was pretty good. I would say it's sort of what I expected when I saw Michael J. Fox and Sean Penn on there. It's probably the most commercial looking film on that package, in that it's the most Hollywoodish, probably because it's also the newest one of the bunch. Then there was Birdie, Alamo Bay, and Summer Tree. I would say out of the others, Summer Tree and Alamo Bay were probably the most, artsy, the most message-driven films that I enjoyed out of the bunch. And Birdie was good enough as it was. It just wasn't something that is necessarily for everybody or as big as the others. But it's a good package if you like, Vietnam or anti-Vietnam movies, and you get a decent amount on each package. They are all in their proper aspect ratios, high bit rate, good quality, no special features. And the audio ranges from mono for one of the films to surround sound for Casualties of War, because that's one that's had been remastered in the past. We also have a brand new release of the 7th series in the Ultraman series. They released this as a steelbook, and there's also a regular edition obviously out as well. And this is Ultraman Leo. Same as the other guys as far as visual quality and features. If you've been watching the Ultraman series as they've come out and you've been wanting to collect each one, the regular editions have a spine that lines up that will eventually show you like a whole motif and poster for everything. You get a booklet in here with episode synopsis and guide and everything. In the Steelbook edition, there's a plastic slip cover as well, and a digital code for the Movie Spree edition if you wanted to watch it streaming wise. High quality. It's all part of that same series they've been working on now for well over a year, and I'm very happy to add it to my collection. And I think if you're a big Ultraman fan, it's one of the better of that mid-range series. And we're getting closer to the modern day as we go, and I want to see how the visual quality stands up, because as it is, it looks fantastic. Now, the final thing I want to just quickly talk about here is John Wayne's Hellfighters. I had never seen this before, but I had always heard of it, and I'd seen the cover for it before. It's interesting in that it's a international firefighters disaster movie, and it's not something that I was expecting from him, because you think John Wayne, you think westerns or maybe occasionally a cop movie, but not too many. And this is a panorama, like super widescreen. It's in stereo, which is rare for the time period, and it is true stereo. I thought it was mono split to 2. No, it's actual stereo. So this was a big budget movie, I guess, when it came out in 1968, and it's in the same field and realm as like Towering Inferno or Poseidon Adventure, those disaster films. And it was well put together. I thought it was interesting to see, how they would have achieved it. A lot of practical effects. It holds up pretty well. It's not going to be like, a modern firefighter or a modern disaster movie, and that, it's not going to be as believable as what they do now with the stunts, but for the time period, it was pretty well made, and it has a fantastic visual transfer. And as I said, the audio is good as well. There's no other special features, but that, I looked at the Blu-ray of it. They also sent over the DVD version. DVD version suffers a bit from being, the ultra wide at that resolution. You're going to lose some fine details, but that's, at this point, DVDs are basically for grandma and grandpa. If all they've got is a DVD player, it's probably worth it. But if you're getting it for yourself, get the Blu-ray. Don't get the DVD, because the Blu-ray is significantly higher quality. Our friends at ININ Games sent over the brand new Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World, which is the brand new reimagining of Monster World 4, brought to you by the original team that developed the original games. Now, interestingly enough, if you get the retail boxed copy either on PS4 or a Nintendo Switch, you'll get an exclusive bonus that says it's a digital download copy of the original version of the game, which is pretty neat. Now, on the modern, the new version, it's redone with brand new graphics. It's got a lot of charm to it, and that when you're standing around, you're sort of moving around. If you think Shantae is probably the closest in aesthetic style of a modern game or modern series that people would really know. It has that sort of feel, but then it still has that, late 80s, early 90s Sega Genesis kind of aesthetic to the visuals, but all done obviously modern, crisp, hand-drawn HD. Opening up a chest, for instance, your character does a sort of little hip dance, and it's all charming and fun. Action wise, the controls are pretty tight. I'm happy to say a lot of times these modern remakes, they tend to lose a little something, or they feel a little floaty. Not here. It's done very well. Visually, it's very well put together. Audio wise, very charming. You can get these big boxed editions if you want to be a collector, but digitally, it's still a good presentation. The game merits itself. It doesn't, need to be part of a big box set. But if you're somebody who's a big collector, there are, limited edition collector's editions, mega collector's editions, and then regular retail as well. So there's plenty of options for you if you want to pick it up. It plays pretty well. I would say, it's on a 2D plane. It's that 2D, 2.5D sort of thing. And, there are different difficulties, settings you can set it to. I found that it's not overly hard. It's one of those games where you figure out the pattern of how an enemy is moving and, block things and move around things. But it's not as crazy fast-paced as a lot of modern games are. And that is a welcome refrain from always having to be on edge when you're playing a game. It's just a nice, appealing, well-put-together game with a really good soundtrack. And if you're a fan of the original, you'll probably like it. And this is probably going to be something that brings in new fans. So you'll want to check it out. It should be available on May 28th. There's a retail edition that's going to be available. Check it out for sure.
Those magnificent bastards. Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this time. What do we have coming up on the program? Well, this week on our main flagship This Week in Geek show, we have 3 reviews from myself. One is the new Soundcore Life Q35 headset or headphones, noise canceling. It's their flagship ones. It's got some features in there that I've never encountered before personally, which I'll be interesting to talk about. We've also got my review, of Metopia, brought to us by Nintendo. And we also have the review that I've been working on for a little bit, and it's the Fujifilm Instax, which is the portable cell phone printer that was advertised as having like a Pokemon Pikachu sort of edition that is came out right at the right time for Pokemon Snap. So we'll be talking about that on this coming show, as well as a bunch of news. And I know one breaking news story that will be for sure in there because it came out as I was recording this today, and that was that MGM has been purchased by Amazon. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully there's more news by the weekend when I record, so I'll be able to update it there. But I have thoughts on all of this, so we'll be sure to talk about that. I've been in contact with Birdman, and he's starting to feel, he's had some reprieve where he's feeling a little bit more normal, but it's been pretty rough go with that pinched nerve he had after his surgery and just recovering in general. But he does want to do an update, I think, soon on how everything's going. And we've got a bunch of other stuff on the go coming up. As of when this gets released, tomorrow we'll have a syndicated episode, or the newest episode of Nerd of the Third Power up. And then the following week, we have a regular show that I just talked about. And then we'll also be having another Earth vs. Soup episode on the Wednesday. And depending on how what comes in and what we're doing, there might be another episode on this coming Friday as well. And if not, then we'll be back with our regular show. And we are going to be ramping up our discussions and talk of E3 and all the coverage. Some events are sort of already happening this week. There's little bits and pieces, snippets coming out. But we are going to be doing coverage pretty much for every day and every event that's showing up there. And I'm sort of working on that right now, getting some people together to talk about it, because Birdman would like to be on at least one of them, he says. And we're going to see who else we can gather together through our podcasting and in real life personal friends and family that might give their opinions on things. So we'll have more to talk about that. I'll maybe have a little bit more finalized this coming week's show, and for sure the week after I'll have everything completely set in stone. But it's going to be like in previous years where we covered everything. Just like last year, it was mostly me, but Birdman helped with some of it. But this year, with Birdman completely out of commission, I wanted to make sure that we had a plan in place for coverage, so it's not just me, squawking heads at nobody. So we'll see how that goes coming up. But that's going to do it for today. I'll talk to everybody later.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.